Hello everyone and welcome to my opinions on underrated rares and super rares. While most of this list will consist of expected cats that are always on banners, it also has a few cats that are from rare gacha banners or specific events. Be sure to leave if you do agree with my underrated picks, if you think that these cats aren't underrated, or if you disagree heavily with what I say is underrated. Since I believe this video will be a bit long, I'll start off with a verse in Titus 3:10. If people are causing divisions among you, give a first and second warning. After that, have nothing more to do with them. Plenty of people misconstrue Christianity as a religion of just infinite forgiveness or just infinite love, meaning that we tolerate anything, when this isn't true. To receive that forgiveness, you actually have to be sorry for your sin, which would be becoming a Christian. Sometimes the best action to do is just to expunge someone from your circle or group instead of forgiving them forever and ever or tolerating their actions. Rares. Chill Cat. Everyone knows who Chill Cat is. They're pretty much flying cat, except they do massive damage against aliens, and this massive damage isn't a joke. At just level 30, the DPS of each Chill Cat would be 12.6k. Strengths. The extremely high DPS of Chill Cat is their most obvious selling point. With an at level 30 natural DPS of 3.1k and an effective 12.6k DPS again, it's clear as to why you'd want to use this unit. If it can get into an alien's range for a nice amount of time, then there's no way that this cat can't melt it unless it's shielded. This cat's most useful in Cats of the Cosmos, where for a lot of it, starred aliens generally have less range or attack frequency than they do in regular Into the Future. Weaknesses. Chill Cat has a low range of 200, and since they're based on Flying Cat, they also have a low HP value of 13k with 2 knockbacks at level 30, which is 6,800 HP per knockback. That's straight up bad, and it means that this cat, while powerful, is either niche in usage or hard to use. He also costs a staggering 1050C and his low cooldown. You can wipe away all of the money you've saved up if you accidentally spam him too much. Do I suggest them? Yes, despite his glaring issues, he's been a useful cat for me in some starred alien stages and in Cats of the Cosmos. Certainly not in general lineups though, or just as a regular attacker, and he'd face competition from other great cats like Cameraman and the Dragon variants. Whether or not you use NP on him is totally up to you, though I don't really suggest it as his DPS is already very high, making the attack up talent kind of overkill. And with the 20% more HP at level 30, he gains 16,320 HP or 8.1k HP per knockback. Not much of a difference. Boosting him through plus levels is something I suggest because it's something you can do very early, but through Cat's Eyes it's again up to you. My talentless Chill Cat at level 40 plus 10 has treated me very well every time I've needed to use him. And his stats are serviceable with 21.6k HP or 10,800 HP per knockback, and an effective DPS of 19.9k. Honestly, this is probably the best almost variant of Flying Cat out there, as there aren't many of them, and he actually sets up to do what Flying Cat was supposed to do effectively from time to time. In short, I like Chill Cat, and I made a short second person perspective Battle Cat story about him. Here it is. Chill Cat's an extremely weird unit, as due to his nature, he's only useful for very specific amounts of time. Useless to useful to useless. You just beat Empire of Cats Chapter 3 and you're fully ready for Into the Future, so you say hey, it's time to use Solar Cat now, because of his massive damage against aliens ability. But you see that he's basically just Flying Cat again, and you feel as if all the XP you just used to upgrade him in preparation for ITF was wasted. You still decide that he's useful sometimes, but most of the time he's a total waste of 1050C. By this point, although it's been hard, you've gotten a few true forms, and after true forming cats like Rover, Maximum, and Psycho, you finally true form Solar, formed to continue to be useless. Oh cool, Akira? Area attacks might freeze aliens? Just like that, after rolling rare tickets on the Dark Heroes banner, your Chill Cat has been replaced, and he's forgotten for what seems like forever. Until you get to Cats of the Cosmos. Nothing's really cutting it. Breaking barriers is hard, dealing damage is difficult, even with Akira's freezing or strengthen, and overall, things just feel impossible. So you get a bit desperate and put Chill into your loadout and he works wonders. The generally low range or slow attack speed of Star aliens make it easy for him to wipe alien-centric stages. Sure, he's not useful in every single scenario, but he's a great option for fighting in COTC. And just as quickly as he rose in usefulness, he fell. After COTC, you quickly start using him less, as aliens have too much range and damage for Chill Cat to survive. Chill is now just reserved for weaker alien stages. There are very specific ones where there aren't many aliens that outrange Chill, or for stages where your timing or strategy synergize with Chill's natures. An unfortunate fate for one of Battle Cat's strangest yet most useful units. Maximum the Fighter. Ever since I started playing Battle Cats back when I was a kid, Maximum has always been one of my favorite units, because it looks awesome. Though in the past, I've always found him pretty useful even in his second form and in his evolved form, as he was one of the first cats I evolved, first being Thief. Others just don't see him the way that I do, and I understand why. Strengths. Maximum the fighter is extremely powerful in the early game as he's basically Ninja and Brave Cat but better, and later on he has some incredible potential even in generalist loadouts. His HP at level 30 is alright with 26k, and versus Reds he gains 52k HP or 17,340 HP per knockback. Those are some hard numbers once you initially unlock him, as it's one cat. Though this is a more potential based cat where you need to invest in him for him to remain viable, him being in a gacha helps him in the sense of getting plus levels more easily than super rares or most specials who can't get them, and because his investment materials are generally less costly than every other type of cat. Max also costs a low 525C with a cooldown of 5 seconds, so against single target enemies, a stack can easily be created and eventually the stack would have some nice area attacking DPS. Weaknesses. To get to maximum's real potential, you have to invest into him. While it's definitely not as hard as investing into specials or super rares since he's a rare, you'll still have to spend NP or cat's eyes on him to keep him viable. He also has 3 knockbacks, which again at level 30 effectively makes his HP 17k before he has to come back and fight. Since he's a light tank, this makes him slightly more unviable and strangely open to competition in general scenarios from units that have less or super similar HP values as him at level 30 like Ramen and Octo. He's also not really a unit who's focused on having high DPS, as at level 30 he gains an effective 2.7k DPS, though I don't see this as much of a disadvantage because of his area attack and his easy stackability. Do I suggest them? Yes, assuming you're earlier in the game or assuming you're willing to invest in Maximum the Fighter. Early game, he's amazing as he eclipses both Ninja and Brave in usage, but as you go on you have to put more into him to get more out of him. And to me, what I've put into him is worthwhile despite general light tank competition coming from Ramen and specialist competition coming from Ro. He's been a serious help in general with just defending the base unless of course the stage has some extremely damaging enemies. If you're unwilling to invest in him, then don't use him at all, but you never know. Maybe his resist toxic could be useful against enemies with toxic abilities if Rice Bowl is not mega maxed or if he's not enough to defend against them. And I've already talked about his solid stats even at my level, which is far from max, which are on screen right now. So in short, under normal circumstances where there's zero investment in this unit, he's great, but gets outshined after the early game until you invest in him more. He'll always be one of my personal favorite units, but if you disagree with this placement completely, then say so in the comments. Quizmaster. Bronze or Quizmaster has always confused me. Knocking back medals? What kind of cat is that? But he's not bad, and it's taken me years to realize that. Depends. Quizmaster or Bronze does not have ridiculously high HP to start off. His Bronze form ironically has the least amount of HP at level 30 despite that being the form where it says that, as his HP is only 10k with a range of 160, which doesn't outrange much. With his low HP, range, and his ability, his usefulness depends a lot on what stage you're on. Do you even need to knock back enemies? And when enemies are behind the middle you're trying to knock back. That's mainly what you have to consider in most scenarios. But medals are special because they're medals. In most circumstances, you'll have to deal with a fully metal stage or a stage with metal doges as defense. And most of the time, it makes sense to knock back on a fully metal stage so that as you're doing crits, you're still pushing. Or in rare cases like Electric Bath, it's useful to get backliners like Henry so you can nullify him quickly. I find this ability most useful when accompanied with Puppet Master and Charlie for that slow effect on top of their knockback. But one thing that's important to know is the fact that Quizmaster and Bronze work differently. Like Michelangelo and Quizmaster, since Bronze has the least HP, but Bronze vs Quiz looks cooler, so I'm gonna use him as a visual. Form difference. Bronze has a 10% lower knockback chance at 20%, but he attacks a lot more frequently, and he has 30 less range than Quiz. This means that Quizmaster has 190 range and 10% higher KV chance at 30%, but he attacks with way less frequency. In game, this basically translates to Quizmaster being more easy to stack thanks to his range, though he doesn't knock back nearly as much as Bronze if you can get to stack him. I usually find Quizmaster to be more useful as occasional knockbacks are nicer than constant ones, which is something Dr. Cat actually struggles with. He's too good at knockbacking, and that low frequency of knockbacks is more useful to me in more scenarios. But Bronze does have his place, as in stages where you can outrange the medals he has to fight, and in stages where they're pushing too hard. Do I suggest them? No. I like this unit, but I don't think they're great or will really twist the tide of battle most of the time. So with your anti-medal loadout, I don't suggest you replace anything. But if you're having trouble against medals and nothing CC-wise seems to be helping, then try him out. His usefulness might surprise you. Space Marine. This cat has always been kind of weird to me. I mean, a 50% chance to break barriers and an 8% crit chance? What's up with that? Why not use Liberty or Catasaurus over this guy? While this is more valid in most barrier breaker stages, it isn't in metals. Metals. Though Space Marine's crit chance is lower than Catasaurus's, which at max can be 12%, and his attack rate is 1 second slower, this 8% chance is very normal in comparison to other critters, and in fact, it's pretty good. We also have to consider Marine's 340 range, which beats out every single metal enemy except Picataro, Angel Fanboy, Cyberface, and Coronium's Wave, Sunrise Doge, and Teacher Cybear. Only 2 of those enemies ever appear outside of random circumstances or events. Effectively, Space Marine outranges every single normal metal enemy you can think of, making him a solid stackable ranged critter or far less extreme version of talented cameraman cat. His only weakness is his low HP as he has 10k, but his survivability is helped thanks to his 3 knockbacks, so assuming he can survive a hit, he should be fine unless you're getting pushed badly. Unless you have some kind of range critting stackable replacement for Space Marine, I'd say try him out as at least a secondary critter. Racket. Knocking aliens back has always been seen as an, at best, awkward ability, and at worst, a terrible one. But this cat alone has made me believe that KB on aliens can be done to great effect. Strengths. With her multi-hit, area attack, and LD even at just 300 standing range, she can pierce through aliens and alien backliners very easily to knock them back. Even with her sorta low 30% KB chance, the multi-hit can get you at least 2 knockbacks if the chance does work, and she's very easy to stack. This is incredibly useful for if aliens are pushing a bit too hard or if you want to interrupt alien attacks. Most of the time, Racket actually dies very quickly due to her 300 range if she fails a few times to knockback, and while that sounds bad, it really isn't. What you get with her is land back versus aliens, and in Cats of the Cosmos, this is also super useful thanks to a lot of aliens having lower range or lower knockback counts. For a specific behemoth counter, which is Scissorex, she does pretty well. Thanks to his long attack cooldown, she can push him back pretty easily and make sure he doesn't get to your base too quickly, along with any other possible alien on the stage. It doesn't sound that useful on paper, but in practice, it's been extremely helpful in case he's gaining ground. Weaknesses. Her HP and damage are pretty low, as at level 30 she only has 14k HP and 667 DPS. And even if you use 25 rare cat's eyes for some reason to get her level 50, she has 23k HP and 1k DPS. Outside of just knocking back aliens, she's completely useless, and versus behemoths, it'd be way better to just use Courier. Even though I personally don't mind using her in my anti-alien loadout, in some places it's just better not to knock back the alien frontline so my units won't get wrecked, assuming she can't hit the backline with a 200 or 350 on first hit, and 225 to 425 area attacking piercing range on the second hit. Do I suggest them? Yes. Racket's definitely an overlooked cat because of her knockback versus aliens ability, since when people think of KBV aliens, they think of the Misley syndrome or Misley effect, where knockback versus aliens hurt your team more than it helps, though this effect isn't true if you know how to use Racket in our appropriate circumstances, as she's a very powerful pusher. If you know what you're doing, you won't regret unlocking this cat. Disagreements are fully welcome in the comments, go for it if you have any. Ranma Cat F. This might seem random, even though I said that I'll include a few units that you won't get anymore, and this is the only one by the way, but Ranma Cat F is pretty interesting. What? Let's talk about her second form first. With a 2 second 30% dodge chance and a 20% slow, with 230 range and for 720 C, all of this is pretty solid. She doesn't outrange many floating enemies, but with the ones that she can serve as a secondary dodge style meat shield. Outside of her specific typing though, she's of course not useful. But in my experience in floating heavy stages, she's been a nice and consistent defender, especially with her 3 knockbacks, giving her more survivability and a better chance to dodge in case enemies are attacking very quickly. About her first form though, where dodge is replaced with massive damage. This gives her 4,556 DPS effectively at level 30, and this is way worse. So what if you get them to level 50? She'll have 7,236 DPS effectively then, which is solid, but she still at that level only has 21k HP with 3 knockbacks, which is only 7,020 HP per knockback. Safe to say her first form isn't that good compared to her second, as you have to boost them in order to even get here. And when you do, it's not that consistent enough or good enough for it to be useful. The most notable enemy she can outrange to me is Teacher Bun Bun, as his range is 200 and her range is 230. This means that she can get DPS on a unit like Bun Bun, and thanks to her slow ability and multi-hit, she might be able to melt him or any other flying unit under her 230 range. But she faces competition from Cameraman, a unit that can get plus levels at any time, talents, and is far older, so it's more likely that you've already invested in them, and it's far more likely that you already have camera. Do I suggest them? Yes, I suggest her second form as a meat shield in floating specific stages. She'll basically be a floating equivalent to Belly Dancer or a way more costly version of Brainwash Macho. She is useful when she can be used, but just like these other cats, she's only useful against floating. As for her first form, no. It depends on how much you invest in her and what specific floatings you're fighting. At 7.2k DPS at level 50 is solid, but how much is that actually usable with her 230 range and 3 knockbacks? It's simply more sensible to use her second form in cats like Cameraman for anti-floating damage. We're about to talk about super rare cats, but there's been a lot of video, so let's take some wisdom from the Bible before continuing. Second Theologian super rares. Kitty of Liberty. Liberty has remained one of my favorite units in the entire game, though in the larger community, she's only seen as a really good barrier breaker and nothing more, and I've come to say that this notion is completely false. Suicide Midranger. Though yes, Liberty has a 100% barrier breaker chance, she can do more than that, as she's a solid mid-ranger with powerful DPS, especially when boosted. She has 320 range, 1 knockback, and at level 30 she can do 4.7k DPS. That's a bit higher than King Dragon Cat at 20 plus 90, and this is without investing her at all. 1 knockback at 320 range might seem a bit weird, especially with her 17k HP at level 30, but I find it more useful than not, as she's similar to Dancer Cat in this way. They both will deal some high damage for a bit, and then they'll die. Though whether or not this is a positive to you depends on you and what stage you're in. If you decide to invest in Liberty like I did, just getting her to level 45 plus 1, she'll have 7k DPS and she'll do 26.2k damage per hit without talents. Since I maxed out her attack buff, she'd have 31.5k damage per hit and 8.4k DPS. Usually I'll use her in general loadouts and to fight R Ross if I have good enough defense, as this DPS helps a lot in being able to beat him. I won't suggest you get her KBV alien talent. It's completely useless when cats like Racket exist. Her main drawback is her single target, which has been pretty annoying at times as it's caused her to miss a lot. But that's not too dissimilar to a few other mid-rangers, and even then, let's say her high DPS and also stackability makes up for it, as she only costs 825C with an alright cooldown. I do suggest trying out Liberty because she's surprisingly strong. She has good TPS, alright range, and stackability, with her downsides being her single target and possibly 1 knockback depending on who you are. Headmaster Cat Jobs. Headmasters is a very simple unit, with a 100% chance to survive, 300 range, and 100% search chance that can appear between 150 and 1050 range, and 100% chance per hit to weaken non-metal enemies by 99%. He can be pretty powerful when he's used in the correct situations. Though the 150 to 1050 surge range is kind of absurd. It's powerful for basically halting all progress your enemies can make if they're pushing too hard. If you put him in the first slot, you can get 10% more XP for clearing stages as well, which is super useful for XP stages as he's the only cat with this cat combo. It's kind of surprising that there's completely no discussion or talk about Headmaster Cat Jobs because he is a powerful unit when he's used correctly. His main weakness though are enemies that can use Waves, LD, or Omni Strike, or enemies that just outrange him. Sniper the Deadeye. Sniper the Deadeye is actually a very powerful staller, and if he's in the first slot, he'll have knockback up, small effect, so he can be more effective. He has a 100% chance to KB all non-metal enemies. Deadeye is a lot like Nerd Cat, as both of their stats are non-existent and they both have 1200 range, except Deadeye costs 900 and knocks back whatever enemy is closer to him because of his single target nature, meaning that he also doesn't have a blind spot like Nerd. This is both good and bad. Good because Deadeye will always be able to kind of defend himself or knock back bosses even when they get closer to him, and bad because he could KB a peon instead. Using them both is incredibly powerful, but for me, just using Deadeye alone is good enough because of his far lower costs, KB ability, and lack of blind spot. Though I do think that a lot of people sleep on him because of Nerd. If I'm sleeping on Cyberpunk, then go on ahead and tell me, but if you don't want to invest a lot of NP into Cyberpunk, then I'd say go for Sniper the Deadeye instead. Ibisu. Many of you may not even know who Ibisu is, but it is a super rare cat that occasionally appears on banners and is one of the best anti-traded CC units in the game. Strengths plus weaknesses. Ibisu is an LD unit with a standing range of 400 and a hitting range of 300 to 600. His main gimmick is hitting the enemy very frequently, having a 30% chance to hit the enemy with any effect aside from curse. He also has multi-hit and single target. While this sounds only kind of good on paper, in practice he's useful for a lot of scenarios and against a lot of different enemies, thanks to his range, and even though a 30% chance sounds low, it's actually very powerful because of his aforementioned attack frequency. It's more than likely that he'll at least get 1 or 2 effects off on an enemy, be that weaken or knocking them back or something like that. It's unavoidable to say that Ibisu can be unreliable. Since it can basically inflict enemies with any effect, you don't actually know what they'll be hit with. And in some scenarios, you might knock back an enemy twice and open up your backliners being hit or something. But places like this aren't all that common. Ibisu also again has single target. If there are a lot of enemies in his way, or in the way of debuffing the boss, then he's probably going to miss a lot. Do I suggest them? Yes, Get Ibusu if you don't have him. He might be what you need in order to beat a highly traded stage and you don't even realize it. Man, this was a long video. There's a reason why this had to come out later than a lot of my other videos, and that's obviously because it took me a while to make. I hope you liked it, hope you disagreed a bit as well, and if you did, then certainly say so and why in the comments. To close out, here's the final verse. Psalm 1, 16 through 17. He is no longer like a slave to you. He is more than a slave, for he is a beloved brother, especially to me. Now he will mean much more to you, both as a man and as a brother in the Lord. So if you consider me your partner, welcome him as you would welcome me. Philemon is one of the most interesting parts of the New Testament, as it's a simple letter to Philemon from Paul asking him to let his slave free. To me, it's one of the most impactful parts of the entire book, despite being only a single chapter long, and will always be the one that impacts me for its simplicity and beautiful message that was unthinkable at the time of when it was written. Certainly subscribe for more Christian Battle Cuts content, and I hope you enjoy my next video, whenever that comes out. I might have made a poll for it, so check the community tab assuming you're not watching the video like a week after I posted it. Goodbye everyone.